This is a new day and another day of uncertainty for most. I, like many of you at home, and following the guidelines to self-quarantine. So I'm talking to you from my kitchen, actually. I've been watching what is happening in the world right now, and I am very concerned for all of you, for my family, and for this country. As COVID-19 spreads across the nation, state officials continue to establish curfews and shut down public spaces. Due to the infectious nature of this virus, global experts, including the World Health Organization, have published preventative measures to reduce the chance of spreading the virus. Now, these include practicing respiratory hygiene, social distancing, and staying away from large-scale public gatherings. To ensure that people start taking the coronavirus pandemic seriously, some cities across the country, in states such as Colorado and New Jersey, have already ordered residents to shelter in place. But on Thursday, March 19th, California Governor Gavin Newsom ordered the entire state's nearly 40 million residents to stay home, making it the first state to impose that strict mandate on all residents to counteract the increase of new infections. The order took place effective immediately and remains in place indefinitely. On Friday, March 20th, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said the state is being put on pause and people should only leave home for real urgent emergencies. Gatherings of any size are prohibited. This is just simply not life as usual. We have never seen anything like this. In very New York style, he said, deal with it. But there are many out there who are not taking this seriously, who roll their eyes and make fun of these orders of protection. And that's what I intend to address with you today. Now, listen, I've heard people, young and old, saying, look, this is a conspiracy. It's just something that's being drummed up to make people afraid, to get control, that it's some kind of economic conspiracy, it's some kind of political conspiracy. But let me tell you, science doesn't lie. And if you look at the videos and the body counts in Italy, for example, where they're actually having to bring in military trucks and haul the bodies out, and you see the families weeping as their family members are dying, and people that don't have respirators to help their family members, then I can tell you this is no drama that's being made up. I have very close friends that are on staff at Cedars-Sinai Hospital here, which is just a few miles from my home. I've had them come on the show and speak as experts. I've talked to them myself. These are my personal friends that I have known for years and years. They've been in our home with Robin and I having dinner many times. I know these people personally, intimately, and they can tell me, look me straight in the eye and tell me this is real. This is a virus that is deadly. It is 20 times more contagious than influenza. That's why it is so important to follow these guidelines. So let's talk about how coronavirus spreads. This virus is thought to spread mainly from person to person. Now, that means if they sneeze or they cough, then a droplet from them gets into your mucous membranes. That means it gets into your eyes, it gets into your mouth, it gets into your nose, it gets on your hands, and then you touch your face, and it's absorbed into your mucous membranes in your eyes, your nose, or your mouth, and then you can be infected. It can be on a surface, and you can touch the surface and then touch your face. That's why wearing a mask can keep you from touching your mouth and putting it inside your mouth. Wearing a mask can protect others from you sneezing and a droplet from you going into their mouth or into their eyes. That's why we have social distancing. It's hard to sneeze 6 feet. You can do it, but it's hard to sneeze 6 feet. And the source for this is the CDC. So the way this is transmitted is someone sneezing, coughing, sending a droplet from themselves to you. So masks do help in that regard. They protect others from you infecting them. The overall coronavirus stats as of March 20th At 10:45 a.m., the total confirmed cases are 263,071, and the total deaths are 11,113. Now, out of that, 87,351 have recovered. And in the United States, we have 14,631 cases. This will have changed by the time you're watching this. And the total deaths in the U.S. are 182. And 121 of that 14,000 have recovered. And this comes from Johns Hopkins. So the point is that this is very real. It is very serious. And if you're telling yourself it's not, and you're ignoring the guidelines, you may think, well, that's my right. I can do that. Yes, you have that right, but you are putting others at risk when you do that. And it is a selfish thing to do, and that is not responsible. And we're going to talk about that today. Despite the pressure on citizens to stay home during the coronavirus outbreak, there are people who are still attending events with hundreds of people, as well as hanging out on beaches. I'm sure you've all heard about the 21-year-old college student who went viral on TikTok for licking a toilet seat on an airplane as she headed to spring break festivities in Miami. I mean, what the hell was she thinking? That's just got to be the understatement question of the day. She says it's the media's fault for making it a worldwide story. Well, I'm going to dial her on Zoom in just a minute. We'll be right back. Recent images of spring breakers partying on Florida's beaches raised public outrage and warnings from health experts who feared they would become infected and spread the virus to their family members. Now, 21-year-old Ava is a former guest who once told me she wanted to be Insta-famous. I invited her to join me on this Zoom session where I'm sitting in my kitchen because I'm respecting all of the guidelines saying stay at home. So I've rigged something up where I can talk from my kitchen because I want to talk to y'all about this. I feel like I have a responsibility to do so. So I invited her to join me on this Zoom session from my kitchen because she recently made news headlines after she posted herself doing something very unhygienic while on a plane to Miami for spring break during the coronavirus outbreak. So Ava, are you there?
Hi, did you miss me?
It's good to talk to you again. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm okay, and I've got a question. What the hell were you thinking when you're licking a toilet seat on an airplane on the way to spring break when the country shut down?
One, I had way dirtier things in my mouth that whole spring break. Two, I bleached that. Three, private plane. flew down on my sugar daddy's plane with my best friend. So really, it wasn't that dirty. I wasn't putting myself or anyone else at risk.
Okay, well, you just said you bleached it before you did it, but then
you
also say you did it to show that there's no danger and everybody shouldn't be concerned. So if there's no danger and everybody shouldn't be concerned, then why did you bleach it?
Well, I bleached it because, people poop on there. That's why I bleached it. And
well, you didn't say that. You didn't say I'm going to bleach this and lick it. I'm going to clean it like it was in a lab, and then I'm going to bleach it. So you lied to people.
Well, yeah, that's what the media is doing, I think, with this entire virus. Obviously, it was a social experiment more than anything else. Obviously, I wanted the clout off of it, and I was really annoyed that Corona was getting more publicity than me because I currently have a song going viral right now and no one was covering it. So I decided to hop on the Corona wave. But yeah, I just did lie to people. Yeah, I did, and it did exactly what I thought it was going to do. It's funny because I created the fake news myself as I feel like I definitely represent the whole Gen Z population, and I'm not terrified of this. I basically took things that your generation and boomers are scared of, and I capitalized off of it, and it made mainstream media. So and I'm sure there was government officials freaking out about it and things like that. I literally I manipulated headlines in the political ring. I had Meghan McCain talking about me. I was on The View, and I was sitting at home laughing while I was on spring break during the most of this. Just what the hell? These people literally blew this up out of proportion and created a fake headline that was real.
So, Okay, let's move on a step further. You then went to spring break and hung out on the beach with a bunch of people.
I was fine. I made out with a bunch of people. I was not hygienic. I acted like a degenerate. My immune system was down from all the drinking and drugs. And I should have coronavirus, but I don't. And no one down there does. There's not a lot of cases in Miami. And
okay, well, let me interrupt you here. Here's the problem. This may be fun and entertaining for you, but then if you walk by somebody or you go in the store or you go somewhere and you sneeze or cough or you touch a surface after touching your mouth or your eyes, and then someone comes along that is immunocompromised, that does have a respiratory problem, and they pick up your germs, you're putting their life at danger so you can entertain yourself. And that is ridiculously selfish and ridiculously irresponsible so you can have 15 minutes of fame.
Well, that's their problem, first of all, not mine.
It's not their problem. You're the one that's doing it.
No, you know what's ridiculously irresponsible and selfish is that your generation only cares about this virus because it affects you. No one cares when it affects younger people. They just say it's our fault. You guys are the ones dying of it, not us. So you're blaming all of us, and you're saying that you're blowing this pandemic to crazy proportions, instilling fear in the nation because you feel like it affects boomers. If it affects young people, you guys just find a way to blame us. But yet this pandemic is affecting all of you, so you're locking everyone down and instilling fear globally. That's
I don't even know. That is so absurd. I don't even know how to respond to that. It's so ridiculous. The fact is, this is affecting young people as well. Young people are dying from this as well. Do you even know how to spell science?
Duh. I'm a senior at Rutgers, and now I don't get to graduate. I mean, nothing's happening, which is fine. Like, it's not like I really went to class. This whole thing's a joke. So
you think this is all a hoax created by Twitter? That's what you're saying?
I think, well, one clout started this virus. A bunch of girls in China started eating exotic animals for views on YouTube, and I know for a fact that those bats probably do not taste good. They just wanted to shock people. And I get it because I'm a clout chaser myself. So this started a pandemic. We
have to take a break here. And I want to talk to Ava about the repercussions of what I think are spoiled and entitled behavior. We're going to pick that up right next. Millennials became the new target for health officials and the White House, due in part to what some people called a spoiled and entitled attitude. Now, I wanted to talk to 21-year-old Ava, who says older people are the ones really at risk for coronavirus, and younger people just need to get outside and enjoy life. Now, Ava, here's my problem. Do you have any concern about the fact that if you just get outside and enjoy life and perpetuate the spread of this virus, that you put more older people at risk? Does that concern you at all?
No. Honestly, just from off of what I'm hearing here in this conversation, I wouldn't be surprised if you're part of the Illuminati or whatever government officials are pushing this virus because you're wealthy, obviously well known. I just don't think that this is as concerning as possible as it could be, because I don't have coronavirus. I don't have any symptoms. No one I know has symptoms. And I was with thousands of people down in spring break, and I was kissing people. I was acting out. I was being promiscuous. I was doing all these things and having a good time, and nothing happened. You're calling me selfish, but you are the ones who are concerned because you're concerned about yourselves, because you're the ones who can die, and we can't. And so you're pushing this so hard.
Ava, wait a minute. You don't understand. Out of 508 cases, 20% of those cases were between the age of 20 and 44. According to the CDC, between February 12th and March 16th, 12% of those were in the ICU. Young people are getting this, 40% between the age of 20 and 54. So young people are getting this. You might look, are you just saying this to get attention? You can't do this.
I know. I genuinely think because the fact that I was able to create fake news and that there was literal reports in the mainstream media that cocaine could cure coronavirus. Now, I wouldn't be surprised because there was a lot of cocaine use down on spring break and no one had it. So maybe that's why rumor was created. I don't know. But it's like the fact that these fake news reports, and my own fake news report, I was on Fox News. Like I was mainstream media for a couple of days and it wasn't real. So I just don't know what's true and what's not. I genuinely don't. If you
infect one person that loses their life, is it worth it for you to have this attention?
I'm hearing you talk and you're like, oh, you're going to kill somebody? Like, you know what? Like, I'll pull up and I'll cough on you. Like, I'm just tired of it. This is ridiculous.
What's ridiculous is your spoiled and entitled attitude.
You're the boomer. You're the spoiled one.
Everybody in the country needs to recognize the danger associated with a highly contagious virus here. This is not a typical virus that you can pick up by the same way you do the flu. The flu kills a lot of people. It's true. This virus is much more contagious and much deadlier than influenza. This is something that we need to respect, or we're going to overwhelm the medical system, and everyone is going to be impacted. Well, you're going to be impacted. Your graduation was canceled. This is impacting you.
Well, it is, but like, honestly, I'm not complaining because now, it just gives me the time to do other things and pursue other projects besides school. And I know a lot of people my age are looking at this and you know what you're going to say? We're not taking this seriously. You're giving us no reason to take it seriously. And it's like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is just a bunch of older people pushing concern on something and limiting us and limiting our freedom over something that scares them right before an election of a controversial president. I'm just not buying it. I don't think other people are.
Let me finish this conversation by saying this. I want to appeal to everyone to completely disregard everything you're saying because I think it is absolutely absurd. I also want to appeal to everyone to not take action against you because of your ignorance. I don't want anyone to be violent against you. I don't want anybody to do anything to you. They can disagree with you. This is America. You have your First Amendment right to be wrong. And if that's what you want to do, then you have the right to do that. But I don't want anyone to act out against you or create violence against you. That's not what I'm looking for. I don't want anybody to do that. But what you're saying is infuriating to people that are losing loved ones, and I think they believe that this is absolutely absurd. I think you're being ignorant. I think you're being absurd. I think you're being ridiculous, and I just really hope that you don't really rue the day you made these ridiculous comments. So
I don't think I will.
I hope not. I reached out to an outspoken pastor who says his Louisiana church was recently visited by law enforcement because he violated an emergency order banning public or private gatherings of more than 50 people during the coronavirus pandemic. We're going to dial him up next. We'll be right back. I reached out to Pastor Tony and invited him to join me on this Zoom session. Tuesday night service at his church, Life Tabernacle, was recently attended by law enforcement. They weren't there to worship. They were there because they said he violated an emergency order mandated by Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards, banning public or private gatherings of more than 50 people during the coronavirus pandemic. Now, Pastor Tony admittedly had over 1,100 people at his Sunday service. That's over 22 times the amount of people allowed under the recent emergency order. Then he followed up with smaller service on a few days later, where 305 people attended. That's a little over 6 times the amount of people allowed by the governor's edict. So, Pastor Tony, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Dr. Phil.
Well, this is clearly a difficult situation for everybody, and I can imagine for you wanting to minister to your flock and bring comfort to them and deliver the message to them. This creates a real problem because a lot of these people rely on this every week and maybe sometimes more than once a week to come and get the message and get the comfort that you provide.
That is accurate, Dr. Phil. We feel that we are as an essential part of our community as the retail stores, as the Mall of Louisiana that remains open to this moment. So it is in persecution of the faith for us to be asked to close our doors whenever more people are being contacted in those Targets and Walmarts than are in my service. And for them to say those are essential to the community operating, I say that the church is as and more important that we assemble together. We reach out, we minister to people, we feed people. We're the last stable institution in this community today. I guarantee you that.
Well, Pastor Tony, and let me tell you straight up, I very much am a Christian. I've had a personal relationship with Jesus Christ since I was 13 years old. I take this very seriously, so I have a great respect for what you're trying to do.
Thank you.
Also, I've read everything that you were kind enough to share with us about your thinking, and I know that you also have a healthy respect for the science involved here, and I know that you don't want to put anybody at risk.
I do not.
At the same time, and you say that the stores are open, and so you're holding your doors open, and two wrongs don't make a right. And what I'm concerned about is the science of this that I've looked very hard at. And trust me, I'm not an immunologist, I'm not an infectious disease expert, and I don't pretend to be, but I have had the privilege of talking to the world's leading experts on this. And the fact of the matter is, this is not a typical virus. This is much more infectious than influenza. It's much more deadly than influenza. And particularly for those that are elderly with underlying respiratory disorders like COPD or asthma, something of that nature, if they get that, particularly in a part of the country where there are not a lot of respirators or ventilators or resources to help them, this could be very, very deadly.
Correct.
And I'm curious how you feel about that in putting these people in such juxtaposition to one another.
My answer to that is, even if the stores were to close, we want to have the ability to exercise our First Amendment rights, which are your rights as well, but these are our freedoms that we hold dear, that Congress can pass no laws prohibiting or forbidding us to gather and assemble. That is a conviction of ours. And even if the stores were to close, we don't force anybody to come to our services. I'll tell you this, with the instability in my community today, I've ministered to 2 teenage girls, African-American girls, who have attempted suicide this week because their parents have lost their jobs, their schools are closed, they don't get their meals during the day, and these are troublesome time for them. We're ministering to them. We're not a part of the problem.
Well, Pastor, let me ask you this, and I don't know if you ever watched Dr. Phil, but I do my homework, and I've found some things out about you. And what I know about you is you are a highly respected individual in your community. People look up to you, and
correct,
and they have a lot of trust and faith in you. So I know your reputation is one of being a very responsible individual. And
yes, sir.
Because of that, you say that you certainly have the right of assembly under the Constitution, but with rights also come responsibilities. And
correct.
I'm wondering if you feel the responsibility in exercising that right to set an example for people to protect themselves and be responsible in that assemblage. And if there's a way to do this where they can have the best of both worlds, where they can get the message, they can get the ministry of the Lord, and at the same time protect themselves as much as they possibly can by respecting social distancing, by using the technology of Facebook and presenting the sermons and the message over the internet, doing a conglomerate of things to get the message out to as many people as possible and yet keep them safe at the same time.
You make an extremely powerful argument, and it's in our favor. The majority of the congregants that I minister to do not have internet. They're impoverished parts of our community, 19 different nationalities, where nobody else goes and ministers. I do not have the ability to reach them other than bringing them to a central point, which is the church house, feeding them, praying for them, preaching to them, encouraging them. Now I stand in solidarity with our law enforcement, governor, and national officials that Pastor, this virus does not live outside. If you go outside, we will not infringe on your rights to worship at all. And that was very encouraging to me, because I'm not a revolutionary who wants to come against our government. I prayed with someone who had been exposed yesterday. As in minister, as a pastor, I have that duty to pray for them. We believe that we lay hands on the sick and people can recover, and that is yes.
There are some ways that we can do this with safety, and there's a big point that I agree with you on. And we have to take a break. When we come back, I want to tell you where you and I intersect instead of conflict. Pastor Tony says he plans to go about his plans for Sunday services as usual, and expects many buses filled with people to pull up to his church. We'll talk about what he and I agree on when we come back. I asked Pastor Tony to join me from Zoom from his church in Louisiana, where he says police officers recently told him that he violated the governor's current edict of no more than 50 people allowed to gather during the coronavirus pandemic. Pastor Tony says that won't stop him from ministering to people, and plans to hold his usual Sunday service where he expects over 1,000 worshipers. Just before the break, I said there were some things that he and I agree about, and where it is that he and I agree is that I have said that I think this virus is very dangerous. I think it's very contagious. I think it's very deadly. But I've also said that I believe that we are going to have as much devastation and maybe as many deaths from stress and suicide and depression and reactions to the economic collapse, the disintegration of families from pressure, all the things of people losing their wherewithal, mothers and fathers feeling like they can't take care of their families, all because of the fallout from this virus. And people need help with that. They need support. They need to be ministered to, which is one of the reasons that I'm here in my kitchen when I've been told that the show needs to go on hiatus because we can't bring crew in, and we certainly can't have audiences, and we can't have crew in. So I'm by myself in my kitchen with no crew whatsoever. Everybody is working from their home because I want to deliver as much help as I can. So, Pastor Tony, I agree with you that we can't just abandon the people that we have relying on us during this difficult time, but I'm trying to figure out a way to do it where I don't put my crew in jeopardy. I don't put viewers and audience in jeopardy. I'm trying to do it where I use technology as much as I can, but you have a sector of the population that doesn't have a lot of these tools that you can reach them with, and that's a problem for you, right?
That is an extreme problem in my community. We're not in wealthy church affiliation by any means. And I'll tell you this, Dr. Field, there is, as informed as we are about COVID-19, there are people that I reached out to yesterday who don't even know there's a scare in our nation.
Right.
They don't even know there's an pandemic going on. So there's a lot of underinformed people. Why can we not, as a nation, come to terms on what needs to happen? Because I can go across a border a few hours in every direction. There are people assembling where restaurants are open. But in my state, the restaurant owners in my church, their doors are closed. Another week, they will lose everything that they worked for years.
Well, let me say though. Listen, you just have to look what's happening in Italy. You have to look at what's happened in China. You have to look at what's happening throughout Europe right now to know that it's just where you get into the curve as to where this virus is right now. And I wonder if you can even do some things like screen people that are coming in. I know if one of the infectious disease experts and immunologists are telling me that one of the first symptoms of this disease is a spike in temperature. And you can have the disease for a short period of time without symptoms, but an early sign is a spike in temperature. And if those people can be sorted to a different section of the church where they're not with people that aren't infected, if there are things you can do to try to at least separate those that are infected from those who are not, you might be able to save some people. Because if you have elderly people that get infected, listen, I do believe in the power of the Lord, but I'm one of those people that believes pray to God but row for the shore. He gave us arms and he gave us oars. We got to help ourselves as well.
That's so powerful of a point, Dr. Field, because I have nurses in my church, dental workers who have no jobs right now because their offices are closed, evidently. We're taking the precautionary measures in the quote-unquote buzz term now is social distancing. And if I have a medical professional that wants to come here because we are proceeding with our service, having temperature gun, check people's temperatures, and help me instead of fighting me. Help me, because we're not a part of the problem. We're the cure to the problem. Again, if somebody has a temperature, let's put them to the side. Let's test them, because people are going to be here. Why not medical professionals help me? I'm already, after the president's live address to the nation yesterday, when the Surgeon General stated that there is a blood shortage, I called our blood bank. She called me back within minutes and said, "Pastor, we are extremely low. We would love to come." And there's a part of my sanctuary, 2,000 square foot area where they are going to set up and have a blood drive on my facility Sunday morning. Isn't that something?
Well, it is. And I know that you plan to bus in children, and
yes, sir.
You may come into conflict with the National Guard, and I hope that doesn't happen. And I absolutely know that your heart is in the right place, and you're asking for people to help you, not fight you with this. And I know that your church feeds a lot of people. I know that you minister to a lot of people. And I don't think you're trying to be reckless in any way whatsoever. And
no, sir.
I really hope that people will hear what is being said here, and that they will step up and try to help you find a way to safely minister to these people with the Lord's message and keep people safe at the same time. Because I believe your heart's in the right place, and if there's a way to segregate those out and keep everybody safe, then we'll hopefully do that. So, the question is Pastor Tony prepared to be physically removed from a worship service the next time officials intervene? I guess we'll find out. So I hope that's not the case. We'll be right back. I invited Pastor Tony to join me via Zoom. Despite having his state banning all gatherings over 50 people due to the coronavirus pandemic, he says he will continue to hold his usual Sunday service, which is expected to attract over 1,000 worshipers. Now, I've talked to the pastor about alternative ways of delivering his message, but he does not have an affluent congregation, and they don't have computers. He can't deliver a FaceTime message, and some of them are rather isolated in Louisiana and didn't even know that there was a pandemic moving through the country and around the world right now. So they're rather isolated, and I can tell you, being from the South, the church is oftentimes the center of the community, the center of the family, and this is where people go. This is their life. And we talked to an internet individual before, Ava, and Pastor Tony, you have a very different attitude than that young lady did. You don't believe that this is a made-up pandemic. You don't believe that this is some conspiracy. You very much respect that this is a very real health challenge right now for people, correct?
Yes, sir. We are in agreement with that. Dr. Field, I have constitutional lawyers that worshiped with me Tuesday night who will be here Sunday morning as well, who are just as passionate about us continuing with our service for our First Amendment rights.
But some of your parishioners were actually suspended from their jobs because they came to this large gathering, correct?
They were in my service. That live stream video got out. When they went into work the next morning, they were asked to go home without pay. Their argument was, everybody in here was also at the store yesterday, at the gym yesterday. Why am I being singled out? That, my friend, is a persecution for the faith. Send everybody home, then we don't have a double standard. There's no problem. But to single someone out because they came to church, who were exposed to as many people as you were in that target, don't be afraid of that cough. That is discrimination, and we have convictions, Dr. Phil. The pressure of our friends, the pressure of our family, the threat of a lawsuit, the threat of imprisonment, and as each of the 11 of the 12 disciples of Jesus Christ died martyr's death, death will not separate us from our conviction of congregating, assembling together.
Well, Pastor, I hope
Yes.
that cough is not prophetic. And let me ask you this: if you were diagnosed with coronavirus, would you continue to meet with your parishioners if you knew you had this highly contagious virus, COVID-19? Would you continue to meet with your parishioners?
I don't say that I would. I'm happy to be tested. I have a strong immune system. I've never spent a day in the hospital in my life. But I'm happy to be tested. People are welcome to come here and test us. But that's a great point. I'm not going to endanger anyone, but I do expect our services to continue with others who will fill my shoes until this storm passes by, so to speak, if that were to happen.
Well, we're out of time, and I want to thank you for discussing this with me. I know that you're a very well-respected leader in the community, and I appreciate you having this conversation. And you said if they send everybody home, then okay, just don't discriminate. That's
Correct.
What's happened in California, and I think that's what's getting ready to happen in Louisiana. So I don't think you're going to have a debate about this. We're locked down here, and we can't go anywhere. We're a shelter at home in California, and I think it's going to happen real soon. I'll give you just a few seconds, and then we're out of time. Go ahead. You have the last word.
Dr. Phil, the cannabis retailers in California remain open. yet you are quarantined and CBS studios have evidently closed, which is why y'all are at home. That, my friend, is in violation of yours and everybody in California who are my minister friend rights. They cannot worship today, but these mind-altering chemical sailors can still operate. That's my last word.
All right. Well, I hear what you say, and I just need to say I appreciate you talking to me, and you've been very open and straightforward about this. And God bless you, and I wish you the best.
God bless you, friend. Keep us in prayer. We're praying for you.
We'll be right back. There's no denying our nation has naysayers leading the charge against the coronavirus pandemic. I want to tell those naysayers some things that may change their perspective. Look, this is very real. The numbers are very real. The contagion is very real. This is much more contagious than influenza. So if you tell yourself, hey, listen, it's just the same as the flu, what can I tell you? That's not the case. It is much more contagious. And I, for one, am going to follow the guidelines that are set out. Do I want to do that? No, of course I don't. I don't want to be trapped at home. I don't want to not be able to go anywhere, go out to dinner, see friends. But we have to make sacrifices for ourselves and those we love. Please take this seriously. This is a sacrifice we need to make. I'll talk to you very soon. Thank you.
Memories can kill ya, but it didn't hear ya. I thought that I could fly, but woke up on the asphalt. I swear there was the last stop. I've always been naive. Call it.
Every day and night, that's right.